The wonderful thing about Tigers is Tigers are wonderful things. Their tops are made out of rubber. Their bottoms are made out of springs. Wait, crap. I think I watched the wrong show. Illegal firearms appear and shooting incidents continue to occur in previously gun-free Korea, causing two men to pick up their guns for different reasons. Trigger is a Netflix limited series K-drama that focuses on why people might pick up a gun rather than who actually fires a shot. We follow a cop, Lee Do, who has sworn off using guns thanks to his traumatic and nightmarish experience in the armed forces. He's a skillful killer, but is also haunted by these kills. Now, the show doesn't dwell a ton on his past, but we do get enough glimpses through flashbacks to provide some effective development. Now, the other person the series gives the majority of its focus to is Moonback. He's very nonchalant, laid back, maybe a bit nuts, just simply for his lack of fear and incessant pursuit of thrills. We also get more background on Moon, which helps to paint a vivid picture of what influenced his current behaviors. While we have a kind of awkward and forced pairing of these two for a part of the plot, we're also shown several different people, ranging in ages from high school to elderly, all who are or have experienced some sort of trauma or harm from others. Now, some are bullied, others are ignored, some are just simply too high-strung, and instead of doubling down on their therapy, they vent in a violent way. Now, these side stories aren't anything out of the ordinary, which also helps to make them tangible and relatable. Now, as an American, the outcomes of so many of these situations, they're not that surprising, because we have shootings on the regular. But in South Korea, guns are outlawed. The weapon of choice is typically something sharp and stabby, but for this story, a nefarious entity is flooding the streets with guns and ammo. Not the magazine, but actual assault rifles, pistols, and shotguns, plus of a massive array of ammunition. And it's all free, removing all of the hurdles people would experience of equipping themselves to exact their form of comeuppance. For portions of the series, especially as we get into the latter half of the show, the message becomes preachy and obvious, rather than subtle or nuanced. The social commentary, it's blatant and unobscured, so it can feel a little forceful and rammed onto us, rather than providing a choice. Interestingly, though, the characters, they're the ones who are given choices. I mean, so many times they're provided with options on what to do. Even if they receive a gun and bullets, there's still the harder decision of whether or not they're going to use it. And I know that everybody has that option, but for a place that hasn't experienced widespread gun use, this would be a much more foreign concept. And yeah, before you start in the comments, I know they have access to TVs and movies, and they've been exposed to weaponry in that way. But as it's poignantly illustrated in the series, the Koreans see America as a place with rampant shootings, and it's laughable to them that people would so readily grab their weapon and shoot someone, typically out of idiotic and immature reasons. And at one point, to illustrate the difference even further between the US and South Korea, the cops state that there are about 30,000 guns loose just thanks to this group or entity who's putting them out in public. Just to give a scope to that, the US has an estimated 450 million that are privately owned. That means South Korea, in this show's scenario, has less than 1% of what America has on the streets. Because Lee Do and Moonbak are closely together for several episodes, and then we still follow them both through the plot, we get to see how they both use their influence on people who have chosen to pick up a gun. Both of them are persuasive and seemingly rational, creating a quiet tension that complements the stress that's already building thanks to heightened emotional exchanges. This is both a thriller and mystery, with social commentary and action thrown in. There are several nail-biting sequences that had me on the edge of my seat because the scenes capture the anger, terror, rage, and energy that would accompany a shooting within a closed environment. I was a bit shocked by some of the abrupt violence, too. And not that I'm some wilting flower that can't handle bloodshed. This is just visceral and raw because we've spent some time with certain characters and have watched their experiences. We now get to see how they begin to boil over. And then, because of that extreme strain, they snap and choose violence. The action's captured well. Not only do we have gunfights, as is expected, there are also a lot of hand-to-hand battles that are energetic, brutal, sometimes a little silly at times, but they're also choreographed in a way to allow us to feel the force behind the punches and kicks. The show also uses a balanced mix of quick-cut edits and wider continuous shots that allow us to see the moves of the fight. And there's just one scene that is just unhinged thanks to the sheer number of people involved. It's like a clown car just came up and unloaded. But one fight takes place in a house while another is happening on the street outside. But really, that one is happening inside a van. So the moves are fluid and violent, giving us this mix of a fight between Deadpool and Wolverine that was in their vehicle, and then Josh Hartnett on his plane in fight or flight. The improvised weapons and use of surrounding objects lend themselves to unique situations that are wild and fun. But we also get to witness some spectacular martial arts in the battle within the house. This is bone-crunching gnarliness that is going to make you wince and cheer. And there are more scenes as well that are placed throughout the series, using the 10 episodes to create a good balance of drama, intrigue, stress, and then violence. But for as much as I was invested in the storyline, there came a point fairly early on that introduced another story arc that felt wedged in and unnecessary. There's a foreign angle within the Korean storyline, and while to touch on it briefly helps to provide background and motive on a character, the rest takes focus off of the main arc and then creates these dangling pieces that are occasionally touched on, but they don't matter and don't add anything to the final outcome. Now, I believe the idea was to create even more intrigue and threat, but most of it's vague and ineffectual, creating more cringy awkwardness than potent drama. Thankfully, though, there is enough human drama that's created by the rest of the stories. As we follow the characters who receive the guns, they're humanized for us. The progressions, they're not rushed or skimped on. We get to spend considerable time with each of them. We've gotten to know their stresses and hurts. So any choices that they make, they're not out of the blue or sudden. They've been deftly marinating within the narrative, amping up the unease and anticipation with every ongoing minute. Now, the editing also helps to make the elements flow together and create a ton of dreadful expectancy, moving us seamlessly through the experiences to create this continuous arc of suffering. There's a lot to enjoy and take away from Trigger. The acting is enveloping and believable thanks to substantial character depth and performances that can resonate and be relatable. While the commentary can come off as too strong and forceful, and then a side story element is clunky and not needed, the action overshadows these to deliver heart-pounding and gut-wrenching sequences that are going to pucker your butt thanks to extreme anxiety. The idea of choices, it is expertly conveyed, using vastly different mindsets and motivations to showcase the options. Now, the series is going to kill an entire day if you choose to binge it, but I think you'll also get sucked in and you're not even going to feel the time. There's no sex, some nudity, a lot of profanity, and then, obviously, I think, a ton of brutal violence. I give Trigger 4 out of 5 couches. So what's a tense show that you've enjoyed watching? Let me know about it in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for couching with me.